Hi YouTube, Regina here from Simply Fundamental. So today's topic. Today I want to talk to you about downsizing or being downsized and then downsizing. So there's a lot of information out on YouTube and a lot of people are giving advice in comment sections on people's YouTube channels and particularly ones that are related to job loss. A lot of people who are going through probably one of the most difficult times of their life, being downsized from a job where they were making well over $100,000 a year, and now they've become 1099 employees, doing the best that they can to come to terms with the job loss and the resulting market dynamics that it makes it difficult to find a new job. And so losing one's income is probably one of the biggest life altering events that someone can go through, particularly when you're used to earning a lot of money and then you go to just making a fraction of what you were earning before. And while downsizing is probably one of those long standing advice that people give, and it's very practical, right? So lower your expenses. You may have to downsize your home. And the rationale is a smaller home should cost less. But let's talk about that because what used to be truth isn't always a money saving strategy today. And yes, you can go from selling a large home and downsizing to a smaller property, and that can, in many instances, save you money. But really, it's going to depend on a lot of factors. So let's get right into it. Downsized, downsizing, and why it doesn't make sense. Now, for one, let's talk about the interest rate market that we're in today. So today's interest rate for, I think, a 30-year fixed rate loan is close to 7%. I think the last time I checked, it was close to 7% for a 30-year interest rate loan that they were offering out. Now, that's generally to a W 2 employee. That is not someone who is a 1099 employee. But I don't know about you, but if you bought your home over the last 5 to 10 years, chances are you have an interest rate that is under 4%. And so for every $100,000 loan you take out, that would be somewhere between $300 and $400 a month for each $100,000 of the loan. Now you go to take out a new loan, you're looking closer for that same $100,000, $600 to $700, depending on the interest rate that you get. Now, if your loan is 3, 4, 500,000, you multiply that. That's going to make your loan not your taxes, not your insurance, not any HOA fees you have, just the home loan itself. The interest that you'd be paying on that loan too would be added in there. And so the principal would be in there as well. Generally, it means downsizing is going to cost just anyone who's working more money when they go to buy a new home, even if they are selling an old home, if they're going to be taking out a mortgage. If there's no mortgage involved and it's a straight sale to sale, then yes, you could end up saving money. But remember, there still are closing costs, real estate fees, moving costs, and all the costs associated with buying and selling a home, packing, moving, showing, the appraisal fees. Just think about it. There's a lot of cost associated, and maybe you may even have to renovate the home you're in and the new home that you move into to get it to be in proper working conditions, because generally house inventory that is on the market now are not what they used to be. And so people are not selling their homes, they're staying in the homes because of the interest rate. So the homes that are going up for sale now tend to be the homes that A, people have passed on from, and so you, or B, they're homes that people have no choice but to sell, and sometimes they don't have the money for the upkeep, and so upkeep on the homes themselves will need to be done. Then, in addition to that, when it comes to downsizing and looking for a smaller home, you're going to be competing with the new home buyers who are looking for their starter homes. And so it could be that you're downsizing from a bigger home to a smaller home, and the competition on those properties is fierce. And so it could be that you're really not saving as much money. So downsizing itself isn't necessarily a solution. Then, in addition to that, there there is the fact that you're losing a lot of space. When you have a bigger home and going to a smaller home, it may be more cost efficient to heat the home and to have the utilities on the home, but you're losing a lot of functionality space. Maybe you could have rented a room in the home that you had, and you could have got a roommate. If you're downsizing and you're doing that, you're taking options away from yourself. Now, you might not even have the space for the stuff that you do own, and so some of the stuff might have to go into storage if you can't sell it, or if they are heirlooms and you want to keep it, where are you going to store that stuff? And then maybe if you did work from home and you were a 1099 employee, and let's say you started a YouTube channel and you're trying to make it big, where are you going to work? Now you downsized into a smaller home. Now, I personally do film from any room in my house, but generally most people, if they're doing it as an income stream, they're not doing it from their kitchen living room combo kind of thing. They have a space that they're doing their YouTube from. Next, let's talk about the dramatic changes in income. You're being told to downsize because you were downsized. Now you became a 1099 employee. Maybe you are Uber driving, or you are doing Uber Eats or DoorDash or some other kind of 1099 where you're making some income. Lenders have to look at that, and they generally need 2 years of income. To qualify for a new loan, it could be that you may not end up qualifying because now you have a different, a lower debt to income um, debt to income ratio, and so therefore you're not going to qualify for as much home, or you don't have 2 years of stable income that you're considered more risky, and so the interest rate that they give you would be potentially much higher than they would give somebody who's W-2 employee or has W-2 income. They generally look for 2 years of the last 2 years of income, and so yeah, they're going to see that drop, and it's going to be dramatic. And next is you might not qualify for the conventional loans. What about if you had credit card debt or you have a car loan debt in addition to what you could have afforded with your previous income, but now it adds into the income that the banks and the lenders are looking at. So therefore, they're going to require for you to have more in cash reserves. But you were just laid off from your job, and chances are you were depleting through your emergency funds because you're in a state of emergency. And so you're probably not going to have the emergency fund income that they're going to expect you to have. And so they're going to now expect you to put more down for the home loan itself. And maybe you're not even going to qualify for a conventional loan. Maybe they're going to give you a variable adjusting loan, and that could cost you more in the long run. And then let's not talk about all the closing costs, the appraisal fees, the moving costs, the time taken away from you now having to deal with packing and moving and showing the home and all the things associated with moving beyond the stress that's related to moving and downsizing. You were trying to focus on your life, but now you're focused on trying to move to downsize your bills. So, well meaning folk who are telling you that you should be downsizing while you're downsized, while that is a money aspect, you're not considering the emotional aspects and the toll it takes on someone who is going through a life change with their income and is having to deal with having to be out in the market looking to find a new job. It's just not the time to be going through one of the most major life things or life stressors that you could put on yourself, going through downsizing or moving. So there is that. Okay, we talked about the income verification. It just gets me, it really gets me bothered. Um, really, I think what people are not realizing, or the reality is when someone loses their job and they go from making a good income and now they're just barely getting by, that takes a toll on someone mentally, emotionally. It takes all the energy just to get through the process of dealing with the job loss, dealing with trying to find income to replace it, dealing with how you're going to come up with the income to pay your bills, and then therefore having to put new stresses on yourself. While it may seem like a logical solution, really it's just not a realistic one. When someone is going through the stress of being downsized from an employer, moving is not a new stress that should be adding to themselves. Moving takes a lot of work, it is a lot of time. Um, and it's very, very, probably one of the biggest life stresses that you could do is buying and selling a home. So there's job loss, there's marriage and divorce, and there's, you know, death and loss, and moving is right up there. Move, buying and selling. These are big life stress events. And so adding two life stresses events together, that's too much for someone who really in the time doesn't need another overwhelming or um, destabilizing position to put themselves in. Um, then let's talk about if you were downsizing while you are going through an emotional turmoil time. It could be because you're selling your home, you might be selling it at a loss, or you're making bad decisions when it comes, when accepting an offer. You just want out of the home, you're looking to cut your cost, and then therefore you might accept a low ball offer. So when you make decisions in general, when you're going through a crisis, it's not a time to be making life changes. So generally just not a good time to be doing it. You don't want to make decisions when you're going through periods that are potentially temporary. And let's talk about the fact is reality is just because you lost your income now doesn't mean that you've lost your income forever. While it may feel like you're in a downsized moment, may feel like you're not going to get your income back to where it be, that may not necessarily be the truth. It may be for some, and it may be you downsize somewhere later down the road when you're not going through the crisis mode of being downsized from an employer. You generally, when you lose your income, it could be just a temporary setback. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to make major life changes while you're going through a setback. Even if it's a numbers game and people are seeing, well, your home costs this much and your bills are this much. If you downsize, typically a home costing this much would cost this much. And therefore, boom, you would be saving $1,000 a month. It's just not, there's more than money involved when it comes to big emotional decisions and big life changes. While people think finances is all about numbers, finance is really a lot about emotions that are involved with spending, with savings, with earning. And so while it may seem logical to suggest someone downsize, it really isn't a smart move when you're going through a crisis. Instead, people should be focusing on, in my opinion, on income recovery, on things that they should be doing to figure out ways to grow their income while they're going through the major change. So, for instance, I have it down myself. Ins- Instead of adding the stress of moving, a better strategy is rebuilding income. Taking contracts for our freelance work that may have aligned with previous work, expanding any 1099 work. So maybe if you would do Uber driver, you consider doing Uber Eats or something like that. Seeking remote or part-time employment. So maybe you think of a complete jobs change in something that was vastly different, but you could still make decent money doing it. Like for instance, there's always need for executive assistants or assistants in places, even if you were doing something so vastly different, working part time just to have some income coming in so that you can focus and have money coming in would be the better solution. So maybe even if it means you're working more hours while you're stabilizing your income and while you're job searching, that could be a major, that could help bridge the gap of the income loss. I don't think you're going to, if you're making over $100,000 a year, you're going to make that with Uber Eats or anything like that. Definitely not. But it could also mean you're spending the time working part time and cutting out all the bills that you could, focusing on just concentrating on paying your mortgage, your property taxes, anything that you truly needed. And then everything else that isn't needed, you worry about that later. And while obviously you have to end up paying all your bills, you might not be able to. So you focus on the big ones that if you're going to be making dings on your credit, at least you won't be losing your home. So pay the minimums on your credit cards if that's what you need to be doing so that you're not depleting your cash as quickly so that you'll have the money to be paying your mortgage. Not, don't worry about debt payoffs. Reduce your bills in other areas while you can. And while that can only help as much, downsizing, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the right option. So optimization can really, it can help, but it probably isn't going to bridge the gap as far as cutting your bills down as much as you can. But selling in panic often leads to regret. People who do downsize because they think that's what they should be doing, they sell, they may be selling their home and then they end up getting a job and then they're miserable because their income drop was only temporary, it wasn't permanent. They go through a period where they could have covered just their basic bills and they were able to pay their mortgage. But in general, you should be focused on stability. And maybe staying in your home gives you the stability you need. And you can adjust and sell your home down the road if you needed to, but not while you're going through a crisis. When you're going through hell, as Winston Churchill said, keep going because in reality, everything that we experience, it's temporary. So it could be you were downsized from a high paying job, and you may never make as much money again, but it doesn't mean you won't be making good money again. And so focus on that and focus on, you know, just trying to reduce the stress that you do have in your life, focus on the things that you can control and not worry about moving. Don't add new stress to your life. Don't be selling your home while you're going through a crisis. That to me personally would be a bad decision. Instead, consider bringing someone into your home, get a roommate, someone who can, help you with the bills, work in a food co-op so that you're reducing some of your food costs. A home provides stability and you're going to disrupt that and downsize and being suggested to downsize, adding something that is unstable to your life, not good advice. Again, focusing on income recovery is the smarter choice. That's what you should be doing, not downsizing. A temporary setback does not require a permanent solution. So remember that. Just because you would downsize from a job doesn't mean you have to downsize your life. It's temporary. And maybe that temporary is going to feel permanent to you and that because of age, or you may struggle finding a new job, but that doesn't mean you won't find something that can replace majority of the income that you came and you walked away from that. Anyway, in conclusion, stability first, no major changes. Major changes later down the road when you're not in crisis mode. Anyway, please leave your comments, suggestions that you have, but don't downsize simply because you were downsized. Focus on increasing your income and getting through this crisis. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you in the next one.